Well, do I have the authority to call the work?
It's here. We need Anna Light to come. Join the show.
I'd like to call the budget workshop to order for July the 14th, 2026, and turn it over to Bruce Simmons, our financial director.
Thank you. Okay, good evening. Good to see you this morning. Good to see you again. One thing I just wanted to mention that yes, this year is a little bit different than last year in that there was a lot of uncertainty about what the potential property tax amendment might do. So we wanted to make sure we looked at that, had an opportunity to see what the revenues were looking like, what the budget was looking like, how we're going to end this year. And then once we discussed that a little bit today, we talked about the projects that we had planned to do this year that did not get done, so we'll have to, we've already committed to them, so we'll need to carry them into next year's budget. And then with those discussions, get some direction from the council as to getting the department heads together, and whenever they're able to want to look at what do they want to do next year in addition, they'll have some additional guidance already as to do they need to be challenging more, do they need to be going after things, just get your views on that before we got into those discussions. And then we'll meet with them starting tomorrow, and we'll have all those additional listings of projects to bring forward to the August 3rd workshop.
Okay.
Okay, so the first page to start with is on the single page, the fiscal year 25-26 projects to carry over to fiscal year 26-27. One of of course, the first things that we talk about is the millage rate. We've had the same millage rate since at least 2018,
Right.
2016, in fact. And my first thoughts are we should stay with that. We know if we lower it, it'll be hard to raise, and with the uncertainty, we may need that later. So,
I'm going to keep that same.
okay, so what we've done is I've used these numbers, that village, to start doing some of the projections on the other numbers.
Okay.
Okay? So the first little section on that is on the potential impact of the property tax amendment. You see the fiscal year 25 backwards, those are actual numbers. Fiscal year 26, that's based on our budget, and we've looked at the forecast of what we've received in property tax is pretty much the spot on. We're getting about a 19% increase. We're getting right at the 7 million and 10,000. So, okay. Do not expect anything in the next couple of months for that. So if we look at fiscal year 27, we do have a preliminary number on the assessed value. And so if we use that number, we will be property revenue of about 7.8 million. Okay, and that's an 11% increase over, I said 11% earlier, fiscal year 26 is a 19% increase, excuse me. Yeah, the fiscal year 27 will be the 11% increase, and that's just, of course, based on the assessed values. Now, real quickly then, the little block below it that says the fiscal year 28 estimated without passage of the amendment, that would assume the same 11% growth in the assessed values. Of course, that's uncertain. We don't know how much more commercial development, residential, et cetera. But just using that lower number of 11% growth, we could see about 8.6 million from property tax.
Right.
Okay. Now, that's in the following year, fiscal year 28. Okay. Of course, that's when if it passes, that's when the 150 kicks in, the 150,000 homestead exemption kicks in. So that would be a reduction. These are some numbers that I discussed with the Florida League of Cities, who has done a review for all the cities, and they had some numbers that they assessed, and so we're sharing the same numbers, so that way we're working on the same things that Representative Abbott may be looking at, and so on. In fact, I talked with an individual that he had referred us to, and it was very helpful. So when you look at that, if that passes, the following year, we would be probably around 7.5 million. So it would be a slight reduction than what we can expect. The reason why I'm sharing this, because one is if it were a significant impact, then now would be the time for us to start thinking about, oh, what do we want to do as we're about to approach this huge reduction. So the thing is, I think, you know, that it's not as big of an impact as we might have all been concerned that it could be. But these are consistent then with what we're seeing with the Florida League of Cities review as well. Okay. So, and then of course, then there's the following year when it kicks into 250, which would be a larger impact. Okay. The little line down below on the current year-end 26 revenue and expenditure projection, that's taking our current burn rate, taking a look at where we are, you know, take the current burn rate and project out to the next 3 months for September. Right now, revenue projections run a little bit low, but I'm going to take a look back before the next workshop, look further at capacity fees as well as any revenue sharing from the state and see if there's some additional revenue that might be coming in. And then the expenditure projection where everyone, all departments are below budget, are projecting to be below budget. And so what that means then, and a lot of that is because some of our projects we weren't able to complete. We'll talk about those here in a little bit. But that reduction then basically just means that the funds remain available to use into next year as those projects carry forward. Some of the key areas that we know we have further discussions, of course, with the departments, talk about the capital outlays that will be coming after this workshop. We also have Obera, who was acquired by NetLink. They provide our IT and office support for telephones, security cameras, so on. So we'll be discussing with them, reviewing their activity to look at their cost structure so we can get a better projection. We've had a few surprises this year. We can talk to them now after having a year under our belt that we'll be able to review the potential impact. Okay. And anytime, I'm just running through this, but anytime, just stop me if you have any questions. The area we talked about before was the community center operating costs. To take that down, we've been bringing that out, and we can start getting some projections on what those revenues will look like and set up their own budget. It, of course, will be within the admin department, but will have their own separate budget for that, for operating costs. So we can always see what the community centers are costing. Also, the insurance. We know that as we add more of these capital projects, our insurance will go up, just like when we put the plant into service. When we put the community center into service, we see an increase with insurance. So we'll be reviewing that. We've given updates to FMIT, and so we'll have the updates for that. And if I may pause for a moment on the insurance, a couple meetings back, we talked about the review that we were giving the insurance. Just want to mention that that's with full support of Chris, Zelly, Sewer has gone through it, April has helped out. We've had a team effort of reviewing the property that we have insured. So I just want to recognize the whole team for their work in that area. And then for on the admin for legal services, you know, we did a big catch up with Clay. We had a couple of years that we had to catch up on. We got that caught up. Historically, we had budgeted about 38 hours per month, but here in this fiscal year, since October, we've averaged about 61 hours per month. So that will require a budget revision. We're having Clay look at that.
Councilwoman Hackman.
Sorry, Bruce, we don't need to do a budget. Okay, so in the past, legal services would be split into other departments. So I know he does work for planning, water, sewer, and I guess admin. But to me, are you not moving that money around from those departments? Like, that's what Sarah used to do. Everybody kind of paid a fair share, and then he didn't really have a cap because we could have a lawsuit, he's reviewing contracts, we could have a new project, so I don't want to be capping what he can, you know, he's never billed us unfair, he's never raised his rate in
Sure.
all the years he's been here, we could never get an attorney to do the work for us that we get from him, and I want him to take my calls when I call, so to speak. I'm not gonna be told he can't take my call. So I've never seen this on here before in my 8 years, so I just wanna understand, maybe we need to look at where the money's coming from, because I know it used to kinda, everybody gave a little bit to the pot, I guess, because he did work for every department, not just admin, so to speak.
Right, well, I'll look back on it, but I had that same question from him, and I went back and I looked and saw that there had been the same amount recorded in the admin budget. But it had averaged the same, every year
Sure.
it was about 38,
Right.
yeah.
But there was a budgeted amount.
Right.
There was
It was
still a
not a
budget.
cap, to be clear, right? There was never a cap.
Never a cap, it's just that we have a budget, and if all of a sudden we
Right.
realize that more time is being spent, we
Right.
can amend the budget, because we
Right.
realize that, yes, it's appropriate that we put more money into the legal service line.
Right, but
But still,
can't you take it from the
Go
other
over
areas?
the number, he's gotta find it somewhere.
But why is he not taking it from all the departments that Clay's servicing? That's what Sarah used to do, I'm almost positive.
Well, I've gone back and looked at the financial,
Okay,
and it's been on that line. The
Okay.
year that we've been a few years without being billed, and so we carried the catch-up in admin, it wasn't allocated, it wasn't distributed, but it's not,
Right.
it doesn't mean that we
She kept
can't,
it.
we
Right.
can do that.
right,
But that would also probably require Clay to do more time writing, to say, okay, this hour was spent on a sewer issue versus, it's the city of
well,
Freeport.
that's what the
That's-
bills, we used to approve all the bills every single month. Sarah would send it to us and we had to say yes or whatever, because it would have all of our phone calls. He doesn't bill the calls unless they're over certain minutes, but I just think we really need to look at that, because
Okay.
I don't want him to think that, you know, there's a question of what he's doing or any of that, that his workload has gotten larger because we've gotten bigger and busier, so to speak. Because about 60 hours a month is probably about right from what he's shared that he spends about on our.
Right. Well, whenever we received that, and I talked with him about this, absolutely, he didn't think that we were thinking, hey, we're overpaying. He's like, I don't want to discourage them from calling me. We
No.
just have to plan how we want to manage that. If we want to go to a 61-hour, set a budget for 61 hours, if you want to see the invoices and have them do more of a time writing. To where
I
they
don't
see
have a
that.
problem with that. Sarah sent them because she wanted us to approve them. I mean, I trust what he's sending us, whatever the council wants to do, but he would have a phone call with council
Yes.
person and it had the name, and we saw everybody he spoke to, and that's fine. But I just want to make sure that because he may have to spend more hours if we have a lawsuit or something comes up, or we have debt service he does, or a project. We have a lot going on, so I don't want him to feel like he can't do the appropriate work that we need. is,
Right,
I guess,
right,
my-
and yeah, he did not take it that way at all. It's just a matter of, do we need to increase, now with the activity levels in the
Right.
city, do we need to go
Maybe we
closer
should
to
go a
that
little
60
bit.
hours
a little
and set
bit
that as our
higher.
budget?
Okay,
So I'll use that 60 hours. as-
hours,
yeah,
yeah, maybe something like that.
Okay. The other area that we'll be reviewing, he waited until we had finished. The other part, of course, we know is on the salaries and benefits. We'll excluding the capital outlay, depreciation, debt servicing, salaries and benefits makes up about 63% of our operating costs.
So since Clay's here, we can rewind a little bit.
I would, just to make sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Clay, on this first page here, we were down to the area of things for us to talk about. Key areas for expenditure discussions was on the admin and legal services. You and I had talked about that your hours were coming in around 61 hours per month versus what we had historically budgeted, 38. One thing that we shared is absolutely what we had talked about was that we do not want you to feel discouraged or to discourage anyone from talking with you on issues that are important to the city. So we had talked about setting a budget at 61 hours per month.
I think it's, so what I'd say to the council, I'm fine with whatever you choose to do. I mean, certainly, you look at my hourly rates, I'm well under what you're gonna pay anyone else. It's been there for a very long time, as is the monthly retainer. So I hope the city understands, from my perspective, this isn't a situation where I'm looking for some radical increase. But I've gone back, and when we saw this issue, I did go back and look over the years. Probably the two biggest things that I can tell you is driving this change, aside from just population growth and more issues. One, we had the Hathaway Investments case. That's the first time the city's had private litigation not covered by Florida Municipal Insurance Trust in the past 15 years. We've not had a standalone piece of litigation, even though we didn't fight it beyond the motion to dismiss. We did have an executive session. We did go through things there. So that is all on this year's budget. So that is where you did see a tick up. I'm running right now, I'm looking at, whereas historically we have been closer to somewhere between 8 to 12 hours a week is about how much I would just allocate. So you understand how I did it, and that's about what I kind of view that was. It seems like we're running closer to 12 to 15 a week now is where we're kind of pushing. The other thing that drove that outside of litigation, just bluntly, is the contact rates I have. I've heard more, and I guess we don't have any of them here, so I'll pick up them. I've heard more from our additional consulting engineers.
Right.
On the front end, much like I used to, say, 6, 7 years ago, 10 years ago with Rebel Ridge before it became Newberry, and then PMA prior to that. Though there used to be a lot more communication one-to-one. I'm not here to pick on Alex and Newberry other than to say that I would definitely tell the council that, like this issue where we dealt with the Black Creek easements over the last month, that Mark and Morgan would both say has taken up far more than all of our time that we want to, is a situation where instead of me getting, a couple of phone calls over the course of a couple of weeks and we stay on the front end of something, I'm now spending multiple hours a day cleaning it up. I can tell you the Friday before the 4th of July, Mr. Martin and I had 45 minutes on the phone going through this, trying to get our feet under us as to what had happened, the documents that were provided to Morgan. We were trying to figure out where they came from. They got represented, they were provided by the engineer. We were told they're not, just as recently as yesterday. Now the suggestion's been made that maybe those documents have been passed out many years ago. We haven't been doing this project for many years. So I'm still at a loss. But then from there, because we do have our state officials involved, what I'm suggesting there, I'm picking that as one example, but that's a situation where we probably haven't had that kind of issue on one customer interaction in a decade. And all of us spent an entire Friday afternoon when you didn't have any other governmental people in the state working because we have one blow up. That's what I can't predict for the council. And so no, I'm certainly not gonna not take phone calls from the city or not do my job. I am gonna say this is a practical matter. Mark and I have talked about this. There's no way to control some of it. But I will say, and if it feels like I'm picking on engineering, that's not the intent, but it can be read that way. We're getting a lot more add-ons on our things. And I just want to, as a practical matter, call to the attention that if I'm being asked to review a contract in real time because it's an emergency basis, if everything's an emergency, nothing's. That's a problem for everybody. So for the last 6 to 8 months, I have no problem with zero bills. I sat down Sunday afternoons before our council meetings after Rebecca publishes the agenda and literally go through the agenda in the links. And just like this morning, I didn't realize there were 2 quotes on there that all went to the agenda. It's been a long time since I've had to do a full agenda doc review for the city of Freeport. And I'm not saying that's the new normal. It used to be that anything that was going to require council approval had already come by me before it got there. So it's just a change in how I see business going. I don't think that's necessarily somebody not doing their job, but if that's what we're going to expect, it does create additional time allocation. So one thing I said to Mark and Bruce, whatever the council wants to budget, that's fine. If the council wants budget certainty, and this is something that I'm sitting through conferences with Florida League of Cities attorneys and Florida Association of County attorneys. One thing that a lot of local governments are talking about with new property tax notes coming in is budget stability among professional services, engineers, attorneys, and other outside consultants. So if the council wants to talk, and I'd like to talk to each of you individually to make sure I understand what each of you want, obviously we can't vote here tonight anyway. If the council is wanting to say, hey, look, this is what we're gonna budget for, if it makes more sense to the council to say, hey, why don't we move off of an hourly billing model? I've been working for Freeport long enough, I'm comfortable negotiating a fixed rate for everything. I keep that for litigation, I wanna be very clear. We get a litigation case, I tell everybody in litigation, if the other side wants to run the meter, you're gonna run the meter, and I can't help that. Can't do that for your debt service. That's a percentage that gets paid directly out of that, but I also have to take out that rider on my malpractice to write the letter. So I can't do that in my hourly rate. But if that's something that each of you like to talk about, I'd be more than happy to have a conversation on what one all-in number, you know you pay me that, now it's not a question of how many hours got billed, are we gonna be over budget, are we gonna be coming back with budget amendments? Bluntly, here's the reality, when you do a flat rate retainer, I'm gonna lose some months and I'm gonna win some months. That's just the truth. Y'all have a 6-hour council meeting, thank God we might video those, I'm definitely losing. On the other hand, if y'all come in short on the council meetings, it's gonna balance out. I can't predict that, and that's the biggest question I always get is, when setting a litigation budget, well, how do you predict your time? I said, well, in the case, I can predict the time because we know what the court time frames are. But I can tell you right now, we've got 2 meetings set tomorrow, or on Friday on this Black Creek Sewer thing. We should be in and out of those 2 meetings in 1 hour, totally. But I have no ability, if I drive down here, the first one takes an hour, and then the second one decides to take an hour, I don't get to just say, well, hey guys, I'm sorry, I get up and leave. So I want y'all to understand that this isn't me saying there's no way to predict it, but it's me trying to be fair to the city. You know, historically, we tried to break this up well prior to Bruce's time, and Councilman Brandon probably remembers it. Mayor, you and Eddie may as well, kind of going back to that window, but certainly prior to your tenure, Mayor, the former mayor's approach was always to spread professional services for engineering and attorneys across the water and sewer funds, because realistically, a lot of our time does get billed out of that than anything else. And I was also told at least we had money back in those days. So I am flexible with what you want to do. But what I would say is if you really want to set a number, if it's just, hey, look, we're going to put a number in the budget so we have it and we don't worry about budget amendments, okay. At the same time, if the concern is what happens when we go over budget and we have to bring back budget amendments, which is a pain for you to deal with and not something anybody wants to deal with, I'm fine working with y'all to do it. This council is a very high functioning council. That is a compliment. I know some people ask what that means. You know, Mr. Hughes bragged about the school board being a high functioning school board for many years. And this is a very high functioning local government council. I don't spend multiple days a week, multiple hours a day on the phone with the 7 people at this dais. Y'all call me if you need me. We go through it, we address it. We're pretty efficient. There's not here to hold it either side here. And then the good news is we don't have a lot of litigation. So that's why I feel like I can help you head off most of our litigation. We've been good at that. But I'd be glad to talk to each of you about that for budgetary purposes. Plug whatever number you want in, or y'all talk about it, talk to Bruce and Mark. But for me, really, the truth is, we can find a way to keep this as a fixed budget where it's not a concern moving forward. But when I look at the numbers, they're up. And I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you more customers, we're not gonna have more issues.
Of course.
Now, do I think it's gonna fall back? I do, I think it will. I'll also say this, I think Mark can probably attest to this fact. You know, Mark as a city manager is the type who, he calls and wants something done. He's not gonna call me every day, hey, I told you to do this, where are we at? Whether it's me or not, versus there's different styles of that. Cliff's not here, but I can tell you, Cliff and I basically joked for the better part of a year with Charlie, when he was the city manager, that we should just get up at 6:30 and drive to City Hall, because at 7 a.m. Charlie was calling us, and he'd be like, and whichever one you got first, he'd say, hold on a second, and he'd be like, Clay, you there, Cliff, you there? And he'd have us both, and he'd catch us, because he knew that was the start of our day, and he'd have 30, 45 minutes uninterrupted. And you can go back and look, we'd have that call 2 to 3 times a week. Martin does not do that. I mean, but there are times he'd bring in Jennifer Green with those calls. And so we'd have all of us on there, but that we were on the American Metal hearings. It's just a difference in that we managed to roll that back, but I can't promise you that there's anything Mark can do to not have to call legal or that you aren't. And so no, I'm not afraid to answer the calls. But I certainly, whatever is going to make this council comfortable, that's what I want to do. It's an honor and privilege to serve this city. You know, my father did it for many, many years, going back to before I was born. And so it is an honor for me to continue having this seat. And so whatever works for this council, you have my absolute commitment that we're going to make it work. It's not my intent to gouge, it's not my intent to try to put more on there, but I want to make sure it's fair to y'all, and also bluntly, just to go ahead and say it, I don't particularly want to be in here having to do a budget amendment and having somebody from the public stand up and say, can you justify your bill?
No.
Because I don't bill y'all for calls under 15 minutes. There's a lot of stuff that don't show up on those bills, and I don't want to get into it. So if we can find a way to make that work for everybody, so we're just a little more standardized as we are in a growth phase, I think that works for everybody. But I'd love to talk to each of y'all individually after this, over the next couple of days, so that we can get rid of something in the budget. I mean, is everybody comfortable with that? And if y'all, and listen, what you want to say to me now or later, if you tell me you don't think it's reasonable, I'm not gonna have a feeling. I've told every city manager, every mayor, if you've got a question on my bill, sit me down. And before I pick a fight about it, I'll probably line item, but I don't want the debate to be here in public. That doesn't benefit anybody. But also, we don't need the public to understand what a call was about. If it was preemptive of litigation and talking about a public meeting is gonna cause a litigation. That's what we can't have.
Well, I would like to either see us over budget some hours to make up throughout the year, or do the flat rate fee you talked about. That would kind of be my thought. You budget higher than this, like 61, and go up a little higher to have flex room from month to month. Because I don't want to see budget amendments here for that, because that's just not, I'm just not interested. So that would kind of be my reaction. Over budget a little, or do a monthly rate.
So Bruce, each department doesn't have legal services.
No, it's been that way from what I can see over the last several years. Now, it can be that way, but either way, whenever we publish the budget, both water and sewer funds would have the budget at that. If for some reason we're going over, we still have the same issues. So what we want to do is be consistent among all funds, so that way we're not bringing budget amendments forward.
Right, okay. Well, maybe we can think on that.
And then
It's
it's also,
good news, we'll figure it out. I've told Bruce that, obviously, we will work with y'all through the remainder of this year, knowing where we've hit on the budget, to make sure that we can do this as a wrap up at the end of the fiscal year. That's fine. I'm not worried about trying to, I'll keep sending my bills, Bruce will total them up, but we won't worry about a payout till we do a budget amendment at the end of the year.
Councilman
Hirsch.
Thank you, Mayor. Are you already putting on the bill what department you were dealing with? I mean, is that something in your matrix?
You see it to some degree, it depends. Usually I classify it as utilities, for Freeport utilities is just water and sewer, so you'll see it. So you can kind of see that. I tried to look back at the generalized item codes. I would say that's probably close to 65% of the total time for utility issues for the city. That's why we bought it. I mean, that's probably where you pay it out of ultimately. I mean, we don't have, I might talk to Chris 3 times a year back there. I don't deal with HR. I mean,
Right.
versus the Uniac, I talk to HR all the time. We have so many more employees. We have fire and police also. So that changes. But I can give you that general idea about how you want to spread that out. But I also think that we can probably, by taking a hard look at the Hathaway Investments case, trying to back some of that out, come up with a real run rate of what your monthly legal services looks like or should look like.
Well, I just didn't want to impose anything on you that would be more onerous for keeping records. So I was just kind of wondering how your structure was, if it was something that was kind of already done that way, that would give us a sense of that, or if it's, I don't want to.
I can probably itemize it out where you can see it, because I give you itemized bills anyway.
Right.
The only thing covered under my retainer now, just so you know, is the 2 regular council meetings a month.
Okay.
For those who've never seen how that works,
Yeah.
I get $500 a month to attend your 2 regular council meetings, regardless of how long they are, and I bill you $175 an hour. That has been in effect for 20 years. And that went from 150 to 175, and that rate, 500, 150 has been in effect since 1980. So in the past, this point in time, 46 years, we've had right now 1 variance. So, I mean, I'm not, yeah. And I can tell you, my paralegal makes more than that at this point in time. That's, I mean, her rate is higher than 175 an hour. But, and you get Robin and her for free as part of that number, by the way. I don't even do it for them.
Well, that's why I'm saying, I'm not trying to, I don't upset this apple cart, we gotta fix the system that works,
Right,
so.
and I as well, I like the idea of maybe you come into us with something that's just a fixed rate, so that we don't have to deal with budget amendments. That would be my preference, and kind
Yeah.
of, you guide us with what you would like. You
I'll
know,
put some
that's
things on
fair.
paper, and let me do this too. I'll do that. I'll also reach out to some colleagues with both the League of Cities. That way you can actually justify to anybody who have to ask what it looks like for a city of similar budget, similar size and otherwise. Because I mean, there's a wide difference between in-house counsel and not. Everybody, and I will go ahead and warn you, just like I went through this exercise in the county. In-house counsel is not cheap, because by the time you add in retirement, benefits, and everything else, you take the salary from here way up here, and then you start giving COLAs. I'm not looking for COLA guys. I don't get state retirement, that's fine. But yeah, let me put something together, and I'll talk to each of you individually, and we'll have something ready to go when we get into the meat of the budget here in August, September.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, to go back to where we were then on salaries and benefits, I'll just share that with you, because we talked about what could be the potential impact of the property tax, which again, we see now is not as big as we anticipated or were concerned about, is that when you look at your operating costs, 63% of our costs are people. That's salary and benefits. And so excluding the big capital outlays. So when you start trying to make a big dent in your budget, obviously that's where businesses start looking at where the numbers are. So just for us to keep in mind that as we get into the salary and benefit discussion, what do we want to do with that? So what last year we did salary and benefits was one of the last steps in the, we talked a little bit about what we want to cover, but as far as the numbers coming forward, that was near the end of the budget reviews. But what we're looking at, one thing of course is the health insurance costs. There's a meeting scheduled tomorrow to discuss that with our representatives there to see what kind of rates we're going to be able to get this next year. So we'll have more information to bring forward on that as well. But at the same time, I guess, the question would be, do we stay at this point, plan to stay at the defined contribution of the 1,300 and until we can move forward with that plan? Unless there's some concerns about that.
We went up significantly last year, and I think until we know what's gonna happen with this property tax deal, I think maybe this year we keep it as it is, I'm thinking.
I agree.
Yeah, because we added a good bit last year.
Yes, it was. Yeah, we went from like 900 to 1,300.
Yeah, we added a good bit, so I think we can hold that again.
Okay.
The rates are gonna go up.
The rates will be up, which means
We understand.
individuals may still have to, have more out of their pocket as well.
Right.
Depending on their choices.
Okay.
And then, of course, when we talked with, we had a lot of staff positions that did not go filled. So that will be a part of the discussion that we'll have with the departments. Do we still need to try to fill those positions? We had sewer maintenance. Of course, we had also the potential in planning where we were going to be doing the building. So we know that was artificially high when we didn't have to do that. But some of the positions in maintenance for maintenance crew with sewer and water, we had some positions there that still went unfilled.
Was that because we couldn't hire enough people?
That was part of it, yeah.
Okay.
And of course, we thought when we gave the increase, that should also help in attracting more people. Yeah. So the decisions will be made with the department heads as do we need more positions or can we stay at the levels we currently are
Okay.
at? And then, of course, we'll also be looking at the COLA and merit increases. Last year was a nice increase for everyone. So, you know, do we want just the standard, back to the standard COLA and merit?
Okay.
Okay, so that's the key high-level areas. And now what we want to do is talk about the areas that we had budgeted for this year. We weren't able to finish those for one reason or another. A lot of it was scheduled with contractors, with the engineering, the time required to finish these projects. So we made a commitment to these projects and we're going to be carrying them over into next year. So we have to go ahead and commit to carrying those in the budget. So we want to talk about those things before we talk about new items that might come forward. Some of the things that we know are out there in front of us, not just something that the department heads might want to be bringing forward. It is things that have been tied to our overall capital improvement plan. And then there are some of these that are ongoing types of things that we budget for. Do we want to go ahead and continue on in those areas? So what I did, I just started with the departments and listed those. We'd like to say that most of the individual projects, capital projects that the departments wanted, we were able to do those, except for what few are listed here. And also, most of those were done under budget. And that's one reason why when an add-on has come into the meetings, we've been able to support doing those because other areas were underspent and we had the budget funds already set aside. So we didn't have to do a lot of budget amendments from that perspective, other than just maybe move it from one line to another. But we didn't actually have to go and do a lot of increasing to our budget for those capital projects.
Can I make a comment? You are talking about like the admin plan and utility, this budget carryover sheet?
Yes.
That's what you're on, okay. So personally for me, like 2, 3, and 4, we could ixnay all of those in just my opinion. And as far as the EDA, I feel like maybe we should flock to a system of if they bring us something, we give a donation, because we've poured in tens of thousands of dollars to the EDA and they have not brought a single job to Freeport. And I know they did the light, but that's not economic development, so stop telling me that. So not a job was brought. So to me, I think we could use that money elsewhere, but I would prefer to see if you bring something, maybe we give money, I don't know, just an idea, but 2, 3, and 4 for me are not, or ones I could easily hold for a year. Just my opinion.
I also agree with that. I would rather see that money, us being able to use it somewhere else for the city.
I totally agree on 2, 3, and 4, and I would even be okay with reducing number 1 by a little bit if we need to, because my top priorities, I'll tell you right now, for the city is putting up street lights and lighting this town up, because you can't see anything at all on any of the streets. So I hope we can look at doing something about that and maybe something about our roads.
Sure.
Those are kind of pie in the sky things, but
Yeah.
if we can move money from other places, and that number 4 on there, that's the first time I've ever seen that. I don't know
How many years actually had already?
Had already said no to that.
Said no to that, so, right, so that one's already.
Yeah, we had said no, it was brought to a meeting.
Okay.
And then he sent a request after the meeting because the answer back to him was that we had not carried that in the budget. So he came back with a request to the mayor to ask us to discuss that at budget time and if we were interested in that. So,
Yeah.
I'm along with everybody else on 2, 3, and 4.
all right.
I'm right there with y'all.
Yeah, yeah. Because if we can do something with the roads, we may have to put in money for that with
Yes.
DOT potentially. So I think we have to be prepared that they may want something from us.
Well, to
You
be
know?
honest with you, that's happened
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, for sure, they're gonna want us to put skin in the game, so I think we're gonna have to be more strategic, in that regard. What was the working, I remember the working waterfront, but I don't remember, what was that? So it says budgeted annually, but no opportunity identified, like, should we,
That's through the TV.
Okay.
That was through the TV.
okay, I just couldn't
Was
remember.
working.
So it says grant match, but we haven't,
We haven't identified any opportunity, no, so we just look at it
Right.
every year. I'm not aware of anything, and this usually was something that
right,
Matilda would
Right,
discuss.
right,
I don't know if she has anything in mind. We haven't
I think we
seen.
got designated as a working waterfront, this is before my time.
sure, sure.
And so that does make us eligible for grants if they come up, but I don't think any have come up since last year.
Yes.
Gotcha, so maybe we could cross that too then?
Okay, and just if it should arise, then she could bring it forward.
She could bring it back.
I would ask y'all to, at least at your next budget workshop, ask Matilda to at least have a little statement. She can
Sure,
agree with that.
sure.
Because here's what I recall when we did this, and please don't hold me to it, because this is Matilda's baby, not mine, but I'll do my best to take care of it for this one. Because of the way the National State Working Waterfront grants work, you have to show that you already have money allocated for it. And so that's why it's been a budgeted holdover, now going on about probably 13 years.
Yeah.
Because if it comes up, the question is not, will you fund it, is do you have money for it? So
Right.
that's a priority grant qualifier that you don't have, you can't ask for. Now, I haven't looked at this program again since we first looked at it, but that's why I would ask Matilda,
Sure.
because ultimately, I think my recollection, Bruce, is that every time we've had to go grab a little bit of money for for the ball fields or something, or did some park maintenance, that's where we could easily find $100,000 when we needed it.
Right,
After the grant cycle closed, because then they don't penalize us. But if it's not in your budget to open, you don't get the credit.
okay, I understand.
But if it's changed, then she'll tell you how to do it, but that'd be the only reason I'd say don't strike it.
Sure, that makes sense.
But we've never
That makes
used it.
sense.
We never got close.
And then on the utility billing, are they working on, so Choco moved out of there, right? Not yet.
We keep planning for them
That's
to
okay.
do so,
But when they move out, this is the cost for the remodel. What's water bottle mean? I'm sorry.
Okay, I picked that up from last year's discussion, that was before Morgan, so it's not something she put in there. It's Jelco has the commercial water bottle.
Oh, like a Culligan thing.
Yeah, like
Okay,
a
I'm
Culligan
sorry,
thing,
I was,
and Jelco
I
pays for that.
understand. No,
It's
that's
a
fine.
Discussion was,
I understand. I
that
was-
we picked that.
Is everybody getting a water bottle?
and that was
That's
like
fine, that's
the
fine.
$1,500 a month. How do they pay for it?
I think it's about that, I
Yeah.
remember.
$1,500 a month for this Culligan?
We drink a lot.
We have city water.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're a water
It's
company.
a year, surely a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Water, water, is that like, you know,
No.
is that, you know?
So,
Bruce, does that number include actual remodeling or just taking out? I mean, that seems kind of low for any
Are they
type of
just
remodeling.
removing things like?
that was kind of
cosmetic?
redoing the windows, adding the catch box, maybe some other equipment.
Okay.
So
But
give
it
it,
would be usable
Usable
for
for
us
us.
to, okay,
right.
and that would be enough to make it
They're not
usable
tearing
for
any
us?
walls down or anything, I assume?
No,
Okay.
No.
I just want to make sure that,
I don't know exactly, Bruce and I actually talked about this yesterday, I'm not quite sure where this number came from, because of course I wasn't here
Okay,
during that.
so we
But
need to
Will
write
and I
down
have
the
a meeting tomorrow to kind of go over, because there is money in this fiscal year budget for remodel as well.
yes.
Okay.
So
I would like to
that-
see that we actually
A legit
look into
estimate.
what we would need to make it remodeled to where it's usable space so that we're not entertaining,
Right.
later on what this would cost and how to, accommodate the costs.
Who's using it, don't they have a window and a cash box and all right there too?
So-
I mean, why is it different?
My understanding is that nothing is changing, like the way that we have it drawn out is to make, because where Chalco is right now, they are there full-time. 2 people are there taking the space up full-time. So it's not very conducive to sitting at full-time. That is the reason why the city of Freeport representatives do not sit there. they actually sit back from it. That's not my intentions. My intentions is to have people there, staff at the front counter full time. So we're gonna have to make a little bit of adjustment to the counter and make some more office space because we are growing. So nothing structurally is intended to change. It is just to add some more like cubicle areas.
But you're gonna get a actual estimate, like more legitimate.
That's what we're working on tomorrow.
Okay.
And it was my understanding last year that these were just kind of figures that were, how much would it cost to get 2 more phones? How much would it cost to get 2 cash registers? How much would it cost to get computers? Just kind of that
Okay.
very minimal, this is what we would have to do to put people at these windows here.
Okay, thank you. All right, now.
And then overall the streets on the backside.
Who was the truck for in the street?
Okay, we moved, Mr. Martin over to streets, and we didn't know if he would need a separate truck to do the street maintenance. He uses, we put that in there last year, we didn't do it, so he's been using I guess the water department or the parks department vehicles, so it was just in there.
You're talking about another employee named Mr. Martin, not Martin.
Okay.
Okay, I'm glad I was making a joke and Mark get promoted to the
I'll let you, John.
I was waiting, I was like, wait, were you just talking about where his vehicles out?
Well,
I'm glad I was the only one.
does this person need a truck, or can they keep using the truck they're using? Like, do they need to buy it or not? I guess is my question.
Yeah, Mark and I, we moved him over last year, we didn't feel, we had it budgeted, we didn't buy it, I don't know if he's gonna need parks.
Can he do
We
that?
can
Does
take
that
that out.
inconvenience in the parks, or can he just, okay, then we can cross that
Cross
off.
that out.
Okay,
No. No
so then we don't need that truck anymore.
Okay.
Okay. Is this grant match the same as the others that we need to keep it in there to potentially get money, Clay?
Which one is that?
It says grant match appropriate 25,000 budgeted annually, but no opportunities identified.
Well, good. The waterfront is the only one I remember because
Okay,
there's a national working waterfront program that we're always trying to get into
Okay.
because of the intracoastal waterway.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I specifically remember that, because
Yeah.
I never understood what the national implication would be, but that's my.
And it can only be used in a certain area, I think. So
Right.
we need to-
4
that
mile.
Right there at 4 miles,
Right.
so we need to get with Latilda on that, because I don't see a
Yeah.
lot of opportunities coming up for right there on that area. And
No.
100,000 of our budget will be tied up for
Yeah.
Yeah, and it must be very similar to that, because we also see the same thing when we look at parks later.
right.
They have the same line item.
So, and then on the street lighting, it says remaining amount for community center, city pool, do we want to carry more for streets? So if there's $58,000 left,
Right, if you recall, last year, this time last year, we allotted $200,000
right?
earmarked it. And then we ended up releasing that to use for Veterans Memorial and City Hall.
Right.
Right,
And
right.
so nothing back on the streets
So
themselves.
we still have a desire
Yeah.
to
We do.
eliminate the
Yes.
access
Yes.
So,
it. Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying I don't want to send that to the pool, right? We
no,
want to
we
not
don't
do
want to
that.
send, no, we
So
need to
I would-
add to that.
Right,
That's
yeah,
what I think.
so basically what I was indicating that, all the 200,000 that had carried over,
Correct.
58 is kind of for the community center lighting and the
Okay.
pool lighting. It hasn't been approved yet, but that was where.
Is that what the figure was?
It was around that,
Okay.
right,
Okay.
58.6 is what,
Okay.
kind of had been set aside when they had the whole project brought forward.
Mhm.
They had the 3 components.
Right.
And that was the last one. And then that's why I'm asking, we want to carry more that covers the streets.
Yeah,
Probably need to,
absolutely.
we need to add
We need
that.
some
We need to
lights
add
in
some.
there.
Now, I know that Latilda was, last year, I remember whenever that was discussed and Latilda looked into it, because one of the things concerned is how much will even touch the need for the streetlights? 200 enough, 300, 500? I mean, that's where the concern is
Yeah.
when you start, getting further out into the lighting.
Right.
How much, so we can, again, do the same thing, earmark it, and then that plan be developed and brought back.
Well, I know Latilda had been working on a lighting plan for all of Freeport, that she mentioned to me that she was
She
having to
mentioned that
work.
she has
She
mentioned,
mentioned it
yes.
several times, so maybe she's
Well,
at the
check
point to
her.
where we can ask her,
Yes.
show us the lighting plan that you've come up with so far and what sections we can work on and maybe get some estimates on that and figure out what to put in the budget.
Okay.
I think so too.
All right, that will be, you know, in there when we come back on the third. Yeah.
And what's the sidewalk, money that we're waiting, it says estimate cost for these bids?
Yes, that was one where, if you look back on the capital improvement plan, we carried that at one time at 350,000, it went up to 450, and then a couple of weeks back, they brought it forward and saying, based on what was happening over at 293, then it was probably going to be more like 1.3. We
Okay,
didn't want to approve it completely, we wanted to go ahead and take it out to bid, so that way, depending on what the bids, do we want to approve it? And I think the discussion then was, if we put it to bid, could we still cancel it? If it came in too much, we didn't want to fund.
right.
So,
Okay,
so that's what that one was, that, you know, hey, we still have it as a potential, and it's something that, we don't have a grant that would fund that, we would have to be paying for that.
right, okay. Thank you.
So, you know, the bids aren't, I don't know if we've actually gone out with the bids on that bid. We gave them the okay to do so.
Just as on the sidewalk, bringing it on from
Yes.
Hialeah down.
That's what I thought, that's what I thought, that was the only one I'm doing this one.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'll clarify when we say sidewalk is the, you
No,
know,
that's
county
fine.
layer to
Because
20.
we've been working on that.
Yeah.
Here for a while.
Hopefully one day we can see it finished. With
It's been a long
safety in the
time.
kids.
I remember the first time I was going to say, Eddie's been working on that for years.
It was a long, long time ago.
Yeah, now, and also from a budget perspective, because of the line item, and it's in general fund, we have to report the North Gateway landscaping, even though it is funded by the grant.
Right.
So we still report it there. Yeah.
Right. And then we have TBD for the others because we don't know what that's going to be.
Right.
Okay.
And of course, we know that how well, all three of these, we know, we want to move forward, but we don't know what the cost is going to be yet.
Okay.
Just want to put them out there, keep them on the radar for.
So that we know
Yeah.
the appraisal.
Have we had any grants to come in to match for parks? I just don't recall anything. I know you've got the 25,000 budget annually, but I can't think of any opportunities since I've been on this council where we've not used that.
No,
We haven't.
we haven't.
Should we not keep that there or what?
The issue is,
It's the same.
There's-
Oh,
Say
no,
that if we
we can
remove
just
it,
move it, I'm sorry, that's right, but we can move it later when the grant
So
comes
each
over, I'm sorry. That's right, if you can take it out later when you don't need it.
Now, I hope we will leave the Christmas decorations and fireworks.
Yeah, you better get going, Santa. Yeah, we have to leave the fireworks, everybody says so. We agree with that. Okay, and I crossed off the, depending on council support, because we're not doing those pavers. I marked that off on number B, for my paper on
Yes, yes.
Four papers
I marked that off since we're not doing that, it's
Yes.
67,000.
on B.
Or B on parks, or
Money Brandon Park,
we're not doing that, those pavers, so I took that off.
I put on the text, could increase by 67 because of the time I put the packet together.
Wait, what now?
He said it could increase the 67 on the 4B, but I've marked it off since we voted against to do that.
And so that's basically what's left. We had committed back in December 24 to the 181, and what we've spent to date is 118, so that does leave 63 for what we've committed to. So, and that's the survey work, that the Interline's helping us coordinate, but the surveys, I guess what else do we have? We have some of their design work, but it's no construction yet. That does not include any kind of construction. It's all survey work that has to be done.
It was just didn't include the asks yet, so we're not gonna have the asks are gonna be
And I think we're close at the barrier free boardwalk. I think that's really
Right.
close to being ready to take that out to bid.
Yeah, okay. Do we think that amount's gonna cover it, the 225? I would think not, right? I mean, I'm thinking no, so that's not
The longer it
realistic
takes, the
figure.
more trucks goes up.
That's what
right?
I'm thinking.
Yeah. So I will check with Alex on that to see if he has
Okay.
a new estimate on
Yeah,
that.
'cause that just seemed too low. Yeah, okay. So water. Contract documents is behind schedule.
Now, both of these are underway, so that could
Right.
change by the time we get to the actual finalizing the budget. If significant work gets done between now and September.
Right. Okay.
Bruce, what was the commercial washer dryer?
Now, this one is just a carryover from last year. We had it in the budget. We did not end up doing it. And so I just brought it forward to remind that if it does come forward as a request, it's something that had been planned previously.
So is there a need for them or not? I guess is my.
But that's where all your commercial, your washer
Do
dryer.
we need the commercial washer and
Sewer.
dryer or not?
Okay.
So if you don't need it, we should just let that go. I don't want to hold it if he doesn't need it.
We'll let
I mean,
that-
that's just me.
Okay.
What about the boring machine? I know we've had discussions about that, and then, you know, having someone certified, insured to operate. Where are we at with that one?
Paul?
That's about 240K.
Yeah. So that's fine. Yeah, so that's enough.
So that's being next on,
That's Yeah, and I think the idea there was, what does it cost whenever, anytime they come out?
Yeah, they just went up on the prices.
Yeah.
Construction has.
So we'll deal with those as they occur.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question on the infiltration. So it says originally budgeted 200K, but came in at 75, or lowered estimate at 75, not completed will carry over. So I guess I don't understand enough about what that is and why we would not be doing that.
I haven't seen that we've actually done that.
Yeah, we've done all of it.
Okay, then the coding, I need to check the coding then.
So
Okay, we
that
have
money's
done
been
all that.
spent.
The 75,000 was spent and no problems identified, so we didn't have to increase.
Right, we budgeted 200, and we come in at 75K. We're
Yeah.
finished.
So we're finished.
Okay, so that's done. Okay, so we can check that off.
Right, okay.
Okay, and then what about the, what is the earmarked but not approved? Did we not approve the lift station two manhole?
We did come forward with it. I mean, it was in there. We kind of put, I don't know if you remember last year, we had several items and then we kind of said, well, let's just set it aside. If we need to do it, we'll come back and ask for the release of those funds.
Uh-huh.
Those were there. We didn't bring it forward. I know there were some manhole rehabs that were still of concern. And so I don't know, Paul, if you're going to need to.
Are y'all gonna
those.
do
We're
those,
still
Paul?
gonna need to do it. We're trying to get somebody to do it.
Okay. There's $500,000 in there for that. Do you think that's a healthy amount to do what you needed to do?
Should be.
You do?
Should
Okay.
cover it.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for the education. And then the repair deck catwalk at Tank, identified but work not done for 10,000. What's the status on that one?
I don't even know what this talking about.
That's
I
okay.
seen
It
that.
says repair deck catwalk at Tank, potentially
We
steel
don't have a-
prefab.
We don't have a tank that's got issues, so I don't know what.
I remember
we
the
don't use that
capital being
anymore?
discussed possibly being put in steel instead of the pressure treated so that it wouldn't, it lasts longer, but if that's not something that you see,
We don't.
Okay, get that in there somehow.
Okay, so we'll
Okay.
cross it out.
take that out.
Okay.
If you see something between now and September, let us
No,
know.
I'm sorry, I just don't know. Okay, upgraded reclaim booster, okay. So what's with 2A? Upgraded reclaim booster pump station carried over, not needed, just want to highlight the contract was awarded and completed. Oh, okay, so
We
you're just
completed.
telling us.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's the one that, the reuse pumps that, are actually about to be signed off on, I think.
Let's be trying Monday.
Okay.
this force main extension is gonna be really expensive, isn't it?
All right.
Force main extension, the
Yes.
DVD, that's gonna be in the millions.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, that will be it. Now, originally, when we were looking at that, we were doing it for a development, the Quail Run development. So we
Right,
were gonna
right,
have
right, right,
capacity
right.
fees collected for that. And now,
So that's really then a TBD because that cost, okay, all right, I understand.
yeah, we only got through the early stages of that, if you remember, whenever that all came about, we included that. I think we had spent like 200 some odd thousand on the study, not study, but on the design work. And then it had put aside. And now it's kind of being
It's
refreshed.
not completely put aside.
No, but
It's still
I mean,
working on it.
Right.
It's probably a city project,
Yeah.
probably
Right.
between 5 and 6 million.
Between 5 and 6.
That's, yeah,
It's
okay.
not going away.
No, that's why it's on here, because it's to be determined the final numbers, yeah.
Right, okay. All right.
And the 954, we approved that for the plane on the upgrade to 2,
Yeah.
MGD.
Right,
And so, if, you know, we haven't had much spent there on that yet.
right,
But we would have to fund that if it won't continue before we get the overall funding. And one of the things that we can ask is that when we get the funding for the Bulldog Road plant, would we be able to start covering this and that funding as well? So we'll look at those opportunities. Most of the funding is, you know, for construction work, but some of the design work is covered as well.
do y'all think we'll know before into the budget stuff, like an estimate for this Highway 20 resurfacing? Like, will we be able to get an estimate of what we need to put in there?
250.
Is that, you think that's it? 250,000?
That's
Okay.
ballpark.
I just don't want us to have not enough, you know, and I don't know who could know to give you an estimate of what
One
we
of
need
us
to
needs
get
to
in.
know.
We need to have a ballpark.
You know,
Me too, that's what I'm just
it's just too
wondering.
many.
Because if we can't be off on that, because we have, we need to be
Yeah,
on
so
that.
I'm happy with that. It's 250.
Well, that's ballpark.
It's on the, I want ballpark to be the top of the
Now some of the
Depends on how
things,
much work Larry's got.
yeah, some of the work Larry's
Oh,
doing
no.
internally, but a lot of it he can't, so we know we'll have to go to bid on that. In talking with Cliff, we will probably do some in this budget year, but then it will carry over. It has to be done by the end of the calendar year.
right?
But, you know, if it moves past September, then of course it's into next budget year.
Well, I thought the resurfacing wasn't gonna be, was it the one matched with DOT, wasn't that for next year?
They
Some
start
of
in
that-
January, but they say that all our work has to be done
Oh,
by
gotcha, gotcha,
December.
gotcha. So this is like prep work,
Supposed to be a
Gotcha.
4-lane project, but.
it's not.
But-
All right,
Just for a funny, says I know you all appreciate this. Correct me if I get this wrong, Mary. We have to, all the manholes and the valves in that section from the creek, east have to be lowered 4 inches. And then we have to wait, and then after they do the resurfacing, raise them back up 4 inches. Because DOT had put that in contract, so we get to do it.
should we hire contractors to do that?
Who was looking at the contract?
That's what I'm saying, I feel bad.
Who was- yeah. I wanna know who was looking at that contract, and who could figure that out. Was that our engineering firm? Who was that? that did that?
No, it got left out of the DOT.
Out of there.
Yeah, probably, yeah, well,
Cliff asked him about it, he knows all the details, but just, I mean, that's just one of many.
So now, you know, when we, this covers all the items that have been immediate carryovers from this year. We'll meet with these department heads and identify any other projects. Most of them are going to be your equipment needs and so on. I think we have most of the larger projects already in our list with the capital improvement plan as well.
I'm a little bit scared that the community center still says under construction. Can't we mark that completed and we're still
I don't know, if you've been there with air conditioning running yet?
Kind of scared.
Yeah, now this one, that's something I guess we need to talk between us. This one is managed with planning, so we'll just need to do a periodic review and get these updated and aligned with some of the costs have increased and so on. So we'll include that as part of our review with the department.
Okay.
But this one is good too, in case there's anything here that is very critical that hasn't already been discussed. We can do just a quick review to see if that's something that we need to bring into this year, or is it still something that might be, down the road further.
Okay.
Right, the citywide vulnerability assessment, that one's done, other than the next step.
Which one was that? Oh, I see.
Stormwater improvements.
Got it.
That work is done, that was fully funded by the grant, so.
Got it.
And, but now, we have a meeting, I think it's tomorrow, actually. They're talking about the next phase. There are opportunities for additional grants to do any kind of remediation work associated with this.
I believe we got approved for our Marquee Way money from the legislator. We got, I don't remember how much we put in, but we got that.
Yes,
right?
yes.
I heard them say at the VCC that Walton County didn't get anything vetoed by the governor in the list, so everything Walton County asked for, they got.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
So,
This was great. So next meeting, Bruce, you're gonna have the department head ask for us, you'll clean this up with
Yes.
everything, and you have everything we crossed off. on it.
Oh, yes,
So
when you
put
say
a
its name,
Here.
it went down.
Red pin in that sucker.
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
Yes.
And you'll have the, employee salaries,
Yes.
the benefits costs, like what all it'll look like. Okay, that's
Right.
great. Thank you so much. This is
We'll
great.
have a lot of information tomorrow, after we meet with,
That's great. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryce.
Real quick before we go, I know we've talked a lot, we've talked about this. I got some information I pulled this afternoon, and I was actually on the phone with general counsel of many cities, and they were sending me some updated documents. Probably the league's been doing statewide regarding the homestead property tax that have passed. So just a few things for Freeport to call out for your attention. Freeport right now, as of January 1's taxable rolls, has 2,409 homestead parcels. The percentage of our overall parcels not taxed at all due to Save Our Homes and homestead exemptions is the 9th lowest in the state. So 42.98%, there are only 6 that are below 40% in the state. There's one that's within a percentage point of us. That's a pretty good indication of your financial health under what this amendment's gonna be. The other one is the average percent not taxed due to the Save Our Homes Amendment at all. We're below 20% on that, and that's that cap that it can't go up more than a certain amount. Just a quick comparison for you, the Funiac's percent not taxed due to Save Our Homes and the current exemptions is 68.99%, compared to us making 42.98. Chipley is 73%. I can cherry pick a few. Caribou 85%. Parrot is 73%. When you start looking around the state, we're in very limited territory. Using the 2025 data, and Mr. Greger and I didn't have a very long chance to talk. I didn't try to call him this afternoon. But it's hard to use old year's data because you do have increases, but if you took the 2025 property taxes, our total taxable value in the city was 1.567, so about $1 billion of value.
Right.
If you applied the second year, because they're saying the first year is 150, the second year is 250, if you apply the second year cap, the big hit, to 2025, we would lose 428 million off of that, which is a 27.4% total taxable value impact that we would be hit with. So that's about a 27% hit on your ad valorem budget is what it would look like. Notably, however, where the difference is, that's your total number, that's everybody's being payment by. The statewide property appraisers at their most recent conference talked about that a better view was the current law homestead taxable value, because they consider save our homes in the exemptions compared to total taxable value of the 250 and what that percentage is. So what is the impact? Well, you would go from 2025, we currently have $607 million of current law homestead taxable value. So understand that first number I gave you didn't take save our homes into consideration or the military or the other homestead exemptions.
Right.
If the 250 hits your second year, your number is 178 million. That is a 70% decrease in homestead, which is about what you'd expect. By comparison, Chickley would see a 99.5% decrease. The Funiac will be 92.6%, Vernon 97.3%, Port Orange 83%, Orange City 90%, Bradford over in Suwanee 98.7%. So when you start saying 70, it sounds like a huge number, but I would tell you like Jay, 99.4%, Milton, 98.3%. They're losing their top tax base. We're losing 70, but that's not quite as severe as when we look around what you get hit with. I mean, we're comparable to cities like Tarpon Springs, I don't know these flagged, Seminole and Pinellas, and these are much, much bigger cities. But that's who our comps are, a few of those. There's the other one, St. Leo and Pasco, much larger cities have much larger tax bases. But that's the only way to really get out from under this. Orlando's gonna be at 58% probably. So we'll see what it shakes out at if it passes, but one of the things that the property appraiser, I think if y'all reach out and talk to him, would tell you is if this had gone into effect a year ago for the county, they'd have already made up all the money just on the tax and value increase year over year in 1 year.
Right.
Now, so just be aware,
Right.
how many homes are you seeing built? Well, every home you see that's being built right now in Freeport or that's just been built is not on our tax roll.
Right.
It will be next year. That number goes in, it's gonna be very hard to project. So I want everybody to have some of those numbers, because some of you had asked what we were seeing. I know we've done these calculations in the pediatric county already, but that was from the league. I think that puts us in a pretty high spot. When I was asking, they sent me the data sheets, I told them I was asking for Freeport, but they pulled it up, and I'd be worried about a pediatric claim. Like I agree, so. But they we have people calling that are literally, we are not going to be able to turn the lights on the city hall.
Oh, that's sad.
And there's several that are going to be very tight. So right now, we're fortunate. The other side is, we're not seeing the number of new homes homesteaded that you would expect. That was the tax study recognized in Freeport, which is actually helping the county as well.
Sure.
Everything that growth in Freeport was going to drag the county's overall homestead, and it is not. We're not having homesteads at the rate of homes. So we have some hope here. We may have to consolidate with Vernon and Maysville, east and west, I don't know.
Anything other questions or need direction, or
Anybody have anything more?
want us to look at before we come back with a third?
I think they did a great job. I look forward to hearing from the
Thank you,
department.
Bruce.
Thank you so much.
Then
Great
we'll,
discussion.
we'll adjourn the workshop.
Shoot.